Week 8 player props. I got all receiving yards for some reason. I just am loving the receiving yards props this week. I don't know why, but we're going to start off with the Detroit Lions versus the Miami Dolphins. And yes, this is why I lose a lot of money, because I bet on Detroit Lions. And I'm going with Josh Reynolds over 39.5 receiving yards at -115 on DraftKings. Why do I like this one? Okay, let's look at last week. He caught one pass for 8 yards. Who was he playing up against? A good Dallas secondary, Trayvon Diggs. Dallas is just good on D. Jared Goff didn't have a lot of time. Micah Parsons getting at him, so it makes sense that he had only one. I mean, then again, one catch is just bad no matter who you're playing. But either way, whatever. I feel like that it's not. This isn't who he is as a receiver. One pass for 8 yards. Who does he have this week? Miami Dolphins, bro. The Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins give up the sixth most receiving yards to wide receivers. They're also giving up the seventh most air yards. And why is that important? Because Josh Reynolds, 77.6% of his yardage comes through the air. He's not really a yak king. This man will get it mostly through the air, and I see him having a big reception in this one, maybe a 25-yard reception in this one, which will eat up most of this total that he needs at 39.5. So that's that's one thing. He's hit this in 3 of 6 games, which doesn't sound great. The thing is, though, he's hit it in 3 of his last 4, so that is what is nice. I think the books are wrong about this one. I really, really do. Even if St. Brown plays this game, which right now it's looking like he's going to play, I think Jared Goff's going to sling it to both these guys. He hit this total in one game where St. Brown was playing. So it's not like Josh Reynolds was just getting more work because St. Brown was out. Reynolds has become a primary target in this offense, no matter if St. Brown is in or out. I like this one over 39.5 on DraftKings. Give me Josh Reynolds. Let's move on now to DeAndre Hopkins. Let's move on to Nuke. What suspension? What suspension are we talking about? Doesn't even look like he missed a game, bro. This man, insane, goes over 100 yards on 10 catches last week against the New Orleans Saints on Thursday Night Football. Didn't even look like he missed a beat. Who does he got this week? The Minnesota Vikings. This is going to be a very, very good game. The Cardinals throw the ball the 4th most in the league. Kyler Murray's going to throw a lot in this one. And the Vikings, this is an interesting thing. The Vikings give up the 4th least rushing yards per game, which means what? Benjamin might not have the game that he had 2 Thursdays ago against the New Orleans Saints. So with that being said, a lot of passes. I see Kyler Murray throwing the ball close to 40 times in this game, and if he does, Nuke's going to get involved. I don't think Robbie Anderson's not scaring me being implemented into this offense. Robbie Anderson's going to get his share of targets. There's no doubt about that. He has to establish himself first. He didn't do anything 2 Thursdays ago. It was all Nuke. I'm not scared about that. Over 73.5. I feel like this is kind of low. I see him crushing this. I see him going 8 catches for 85 yards. I see him going 11 yards over this total. Give me DeAndre Hopkins at over 73.5 yards. -110 on BetMGM. And let's move on to Alvin Kamara now, over 35.5 receiving yards at -125 on PointsBet. If you want to take a little yardage more, I found it on DraftKings at -110 at, I believe, 37.5. But I'm going to take a little. I'm going to pay up in the juice, but get some less yardage here. Kamara's hit this in 2 of 5 games this year, but he's gotten which ain't great, but he's got a good relationship with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's in under center again for New Orleans. The game script was bad against Arizona 2 Thursdays ago. We were just talking about DeAndre Hopkins. The same thing for Alvin Kamara. Game script was bad. New Orleans was coming from behind the entire game. He went 7 catches for 56 in that game. Las Vegas cannot guard the running back out of the backfield catching the football. It's really bad. They're averaging 55 yards per game, so running backs catching the ball out of the backfield. Kamara, all he needs is 36. And also, Devontae Adams gets in a limited practice. Why is that important for Alvin Kamara? Because if Devontae Adams plays, most likely Vegas is going to move the ball more. They could potentially have a bigger lead, which means New Orleans is going to be playing from behind. They're not going to be running the ball as much. They're going to be throwing it. And if the Saints are chasing, Alvin Kamara is always going to be involved in that chase game, getting back into the game. He is going to be used. I see him getting into the 40s here, over 35.5 yards, -125 on PointsBet. I love Alvin Kamara. And then my last one, I love this one. This is my favorite one. Terrace Marshall, over 27.5 receiving yards at -110 on DraftKings. Marshall, he played 45% of the snaps before Robbie Anderson got traded to the Arizona Cardinals, 45%. And then when he got traded in the game against Tampa Bay last week, it jumped up from a 45% to an 86% snap count for Terrace Marshall. I love that. He's hit this total twice, and he hit one of those. He hit Robbie Anderson was still on the roster. So with Robbie Anderson gone now, another week of him establishing a bigger role. PJ Walker, I think, is going to be looking his way more. People are going to be focused on DJ Moore. And the Falcons secondary is just awful. It's just awful. They're giving up 207.8 receiving yards per game to the wide receiver position alone, which is third worst in the NFL. It's just a bad D. It's a bad D, and I think the opportunity for Terrace Marshall to go over this, he's going to crush this, man. I see him getting 35 to 40 in this game. He could get this all in one play. I wouldn't be shocked if he got all this on one play, but I love this one with the role that he's getting. DJ Moore is going to get a lot of attention. DJ Moore might have a decent game too, and I know it's very risky because the quarterback situation in Carolina is an absolute disaster. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker is decent. PJ Walker's their best guy. He's going to be under center. I trust PJ the most to deliver the football to these receivers, and he's under center in Carolina. I think he's going to hit this. I think he gets into the 30s here. I feel like this yardage is too low, and I feel like the juice is too low. So I'm grabbing onto Terrace Marshall here, over 27.5 yards, receiving yards, and negative 110 on DraftKings. So anyway, those are my 4 player props for Sunday, Week 8, and we'll see what hits. Probably none. We'll find out.